Welcome. You're listening to Sports Econ 101, the show where we discuss sports topics from a business perspective. I'm your host, Edward Brown, along with my co-hosts, Vern Glenn and FP Santangelo Jr. Not sure if Russell, where he is. Maybe he's in court today. Sometimes he's on the good side of court. Sometimes he's on the bad side of court.
Hopefully he's on the good side.
On the good side. Okay. At each commercial break, we're going to ask a sports trivia question. And even though baseball hasn't really started yet, we're going to talk old baseball. See if you guys know your old baseball. All right. When we come back, obviously we've got to talk about the old MLB lockout. Also wanted to talk about Calvin Ridley. That just kind of popped out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Holy smokes. And it was kind of cool about John. Do you say Jay Morant or John Morant?
John
Morant. Boy, that kid, him and Kuminga. I mean, it's kind of a neat resurgence of the NBA. Awesome talent, awesome young talent there. And it looks like Russell's trying to join us right here. This segment of Sports Econ 101 sponsored by Pacific Private Money, still providing mortgage investments yielding over 6%, secured by real estate, especially with the stock market the way it's been going crazy. On the downside, might be a good time to check them out at pacificprivatemoney.com. Also, hey, did you see that Coach K's final game? Do you know how much it cost for a ticket?
Too much.
I know the scalping was high.
Well, yeah, and it's funny because he's the coach, he's not a player, but just because it was a nostalgia thing, because the fact that he's been there for so long, it's his last game. I thought that was kind of fun. Over $5,000
gig of his career. I mean, he's been there since 1980 when nobody could pronounce his name.
Yes, yeah. I know. How do you get Krzyzewski from KRYZ? I'm sure his kid's growing up going, Dad, come on. Can we change your name? Just K is fine.
In true Sports Econ 101 fashion, I believe he patented or he bought the rights to the label Coach K.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Stay with us. Sports Econ 101. We'll be right back.
Maybe disconnect and reconnect again.
He's reconnected now. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Edward Brown, Russell Jackman, Vern Glenn, and FP Santangelo Jr. Okay. Where do you guys want to start? You want to start with Aaron Rodgers since that kind of just popped up?
Sure.
Yeah.
Of course.
I was going to say Calvin Ridley.
I know. We're going to talk about that. We both FP and I saw that one too. Go ahead, FP. What do you think about the Aaron Rodgers back to the Packers?
Let's tell the viewers the listeners what we're talking about.
Okay.
Aaron Rodgers reportedly has agreed to return to the Packers, and there are numbers that are thrown out. The concrete numbers that are being reported is 4 years and $200 million, the numbers that he has agreed upon. So details to come out soon, but it looks like number 12 is going to be signal calling in Lambeau Field for quite some time, if true.
Correct me if I'm wrong, that's the highest paid contract in NFL history, correct?
I will not correct you because you are 100% correct.
If the numbers are correct, of course.
Yeah.
These are reported numbers.
Remember how he was complaining how he was underpaid.
Yeah.
Well, that now takes care of that.
Yep.
Wow, unbelievable.
But what did Patrick Mahomes did? What was his contract?
I think it was he got more money for more years because he's a younger quarterback, but the AAV, which is the average value per year, is way more in Rodgers' contract. As it should be. This guy's an MVP winner 2-time. Like recently, he's always in the MVP conversation. He is the best quarterback, if not the top 3.
Guys,
in the NFL.
Is anyone at all bothered by the fact that Aaron Rodgers completely flaunted the COVID rules and is now just not only awarded with an MVP, but also this gigantic contract? It doesn't bother anybody.
No, Russ, this is a great point you're making right here, because they actually did a survey among NFL fan bases recently, and Aaron Rodgers was the #1 villain in the NFL. And if sports needs something, it needs a villain. So I think this is a great opportunity for the NFL to capitalize on a villain. Circle Aaron Rodgers, make him the villain. It seems like he's embraced it. I mean, he's even growing long hair. He's looking crazy. He's saying crazy things. I think this is great for football. Now, hopefully his disinformation didn't get anybody hurt or seriously ruin any lives, of course. But now we're starting to turn the corner with COVID. we're kind of seeing who Aaron Rodgers is as a person, and whether you like him or not, it's turning out he's going to be the villain in the NFL. And you know what? Villains are a good thing in sports. I wish baseball had a villain. Basketball has a villain, really kind of a pseudo villain in LeBron James, because he's like really loved and he's really hated by a lot of people. So.
And if you want to go that way, and if you want to comment on his performance on the field, he has earned every bit of money for his play on the field. His stuff off the field, yeah, go ahead. Just say, set a match to him, fine, whatever you want. But as a guy that just admires the level of play on the field, knowing how hard it is to win in that league, let alone excel in that league, Aaron Rodgers is the guy.
Well, I guess the cancel culture couldn't cancel him out, huh?
You can't cancel the NFL. We've learned that. The NFL gets
away
away with
he's playing the 49ers.
Yeah, but then the thing is, I mean, if you're doing certain things like, hurting women or children or that sort of thing, then they'll nail you. I mean, look, Michael Vick with the dog racing years ago.
He still found his way back in the league.
Dog fighting.
Yeah,
he didn't race him; he was fighting.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. I said dog racing. My bad.
Yeah.
Well, the NFL,
I'm still disgusted by that.
The NFL is a microcosm of the American culture. If you have enough money and you're talented enough, you can get away with a lot of things. It's a very unfortunate and a hard truth to swallow, but that's just how it is. And we've seen that throughout sports history. And it continues.
You're just a kid. How do you know all this stuff for just a kid? This is something that usually people in their 50s come to that realization, not in their 20s.
Because he's a student of the game, and he's a mature young man, and he's the son of an elite athlete.
I wouldn't say elite. He's pretty good, but I wouldn't say elite.
And did you?
No, you make it to that level, you're an elite athlete.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm just kidding, but yeah, it's weird. I don't know if it's just my generation or what. We've gone through so many different crises in my life. I mean, I came to the realization, like, since 2001, I've experienced wartime in the United States. It's just something that we often think about, and maybe we have a deeper understanding of how business and politics works because of that, but it's how I feel. And, it's proven itself true and true again, that if you have money and you have influence and you have power and you're good at something, you can get away with more than other people.
Can you imagine some of those older people who are coming from who were in the Ukraine, who it's like they went through World War II, then they went through Crimea, and now they're going through this. I mean, holy smokes, most of us don't even have an inkling of what it's like to have to go through one of those. And some people are going three of them. I mean, that's just crazy. Okay, so let's move on here. Since we're still talking the NFL, so they're coming down hard on players gambling. This just came out about Calvin Ridley for the Falcons receiver. He's been, quote, indefinitely suspended for placing bets on NFL games. Now, the report is that he had less than 10 bets, totaling a total of $1,500, and he only bet on the Falcons to win. And all his bets were placed after he stepped away from the game to address his mental health. So he personally didn't even have any influence on the game, and he didn't bet against his team, so he couldn't try to shave points or take a powder, as they say. But man, I guess they're getting really strict. They just said, listen, we don't care what the reason is. You are not allowed to bet on football. That's it.
Why don't you call?
Why shouldn't you?
Yeah, you can't. I mean. Why don't we all call Pete Rose and ask him how he feels about it?
Well, now in Pete's case, a little bit different though. Pete, even though he bet on the Reds, and we had a guest on many years ago to talk about this, and my point was, well, he bet on his team to win. It's one thing if you bet on the team to lose, but he brought up a good point where he said, well, at the time he was also like a player manager, and he said if you bet on your team to win, you might throw all your good closers in there. And then it affects other games going forward. And I thought, that's
absolutely. And how do we? And we have Pete Rose's word on that, which is not to me worth anything. So he's proven to be a liar. He's proven to be somebody that was underhanded. And I think he did bet on the Reds to lose. And that's one of the reasons why he's stayed out of the Hall of Fame and won't, apologize for what he did, because he did do something reprehensible, such as what you're saying. And why there are a million things to gamble on.
Yeah,
Why do you have to bet on football? There's basketball you can bet on. You could have bet on the Olympics. You could have bet on a variety of different things. Why do you bet on the sport that you're actually involved in? Just
because he's young, he's naive, he's
Yeah.
misinformed, and
But why?
he made a terrible mistake.
I don't think
There's
he realized.
hockey, there's golf. You can bet on NASCAR. You can bet on,
he's not
dog
interested
racing.
in NASCAR.
Yeah. I think, no, this is a great point, Russ. A lot of people were asking me, so as a professional athlete, can you bet on other sports? And emphatically, you can. You can bet on the
Yeah,
baseball,
because you have no influence over dog racing.
Exactly.
Whatever you do as a football player doesn't change what happens in NASCAR or golf or baseball or basketball. I mean,
Okay, now Russ, don't hold back. Okay, tell us like what you.
It really bothers me a lot. Calvin Ridley's situation bothers me tremendously, and with the opening of gambling that's going to happen across the United States, pretty much everywhere.
Yeah.
If we don't have some kind of standards and rules, it's going to eventually ruin the game. And I'm going to tell you why I have this much vitriol is because the Sacramento Kings should be NBA champions from the 2002 season, and they are not.
Okay,
I agree.
Okay, hold on.
Gambling.
Hold on. Okay, stay with that. We have to cut to our break. Okay. We're talking old baseball. What team was the first to appear in 5 World Series? What baseball team was the first to appear in 5 World
I actually think I know the answer to that.
Really? Okay, stay with us. Sports Econ 101. We'll be right back. Well, welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Edward Brown here, along with FP Santangelo Jr. and Vern Glenn, Mr. Russell Jackman. He spent all of his words, and he just had to go. All right. Here, trivia question number 1. What team was the first to appear in 5 World Series? Vern, you think you know the answer?
The Boston Red Sox.
No.
Would it be the Cincinnati Red Stockings?
No. It would be the Philadelphia A's.
Oh, okay.
Really?
Yeah. 1905. Then this is obviously for Connie Mack, right? 1905, 1910, 1911, 1912, and 1914. Pretty good. I like that. That's a good one. All right.
Do you have the years? Do you have the years of the Red Sox World Series? I could have sworn. Man, I thought I had it.
Yeah. Well, they were the first one, right? They first one in 1903.
I thought by 1920 they had 5 in their belt. That's why I guessed.
Yeah, I know that would have been a good guess. And I mean, obviously, I think 1914 was when Boston with Babe Ruth did beat Philadelphia, I believe. I'll have to go back and look at that, but I thought that was a pretty good question.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. We were just getting off the Calvin Ridley thing, talking about young guys. How about John Morant? Age 22, he received more All-Star votes than any other guard, not named Curry. And his jersey is the 7th highest seller after not ranking in the top 15 a year ago. I mean,
when you play your game above the rim and you make exciting plays and you catch a baseball pass in the air and while still in the air, able to make a shot. I mean, that is some core strength and that is some talent. It is so exciting to watch.
It's great. I love when kids like that come out, and same thing with John Kuminga for the Warriors. You know, they have this like extra elevated game that just makes watching it that much more exciting.
Well, there's athleticism, right? And then there's athleticism that translates all sports. You could be somebody that's never watched a basketball game and you see what he does and you know instantly, okay, this guy's special. It transfers all over all sports. You could be the biggest soccer fan. You could watch cricket. You could watch whatever, even NASCAR, and you can realize this guy's special. And his athleticism is off the charts. And think about it. He's playing in Memphis.
Memphis, the smallest market.
He's playing in Memphis. Yep. If he was in any big market right now, he'd be he'd be up there. I would say he'd be up there with like top 3 jersey sales, probably top 3 players right now. But what he's doing in Memphis is ridiculous.
I mean, look what he's done. As we record this show, he's taken that team and surpassed the Golden State Warriors for second overall in the Western Conference. The playoffs started today. The Warriors would be the 3rd seed, and Memphis would be the 2nd seed behind Phoenix.
Yeah, what's happening with the Warriors? They just kind of hit the kind of a skid, didn't they?
I don't know, FP. What do you think? I mean, they've got all that talent in the world, and granted, as we record this show, they did sit down a lot of the players in the loss to Utah. But here's a team they can grab a lead, they can hold the lead, and then for whatever reason, last 8 minutes of a game, they just cannot hang on. And it's got to be more than just no inside presence outside of Kevon Looney.
I think things started to go awry just around the time Curry broke his record. And I think that was a lot of stress on the team. And maybe they kind of went too hard too early in the season, which happens in every sport, by the way, including baseball with 162 games. But no one wants to talk about it here in the Bay Area. I'm sure they're talking about it this morning on some national sports talk shows. But Klay Thompson has not been good. And it's becoming the elephant in the room here in the Bay Area. He really can't do anything wrong because he's just such an amazing player. He's gone through so much the past 2 years to get back. But he is a problem in the rotation right now. He's taking shots where he shouldn't be taking. He's trying to always have the big quarter, and it's just not there for him right now. His game's just not there. And it's creating so many problems. Right? It's creating so many problems. And for me, personally, I like to see Jordan Poole play more than Klay Thompson, but Klay Thompson's getting those starter minutes. And you got to have Jordan Poole there. I mean, Jordan Poole makes things happen. He's a facilitator. And Klay Thompson right now he's just a one-dimensional shooter. And you know what? Klay Thompson plays good defense, but to me, he's just not there yet. And they really need him to be there. And then, of course, we could talk about Draymond Green, but the way that everyone's talking about Draymond Green, it's like when he comes back, he's going to be Michael Jordan or something, which is just, it's not true. He's going to help a lot, right? But is he going to turn this team into the Bulls? No, I don't think
so. If you listen to his podcast, he has self-proclaimed his return of March 14th. So if that's true, well, we'll see what he's got. I mean, I know they need him at both ends of the court, and I do know that he makes a difference. Does he make a difference over the course of 48 minutes? I don't know, but something's amiss, something's awry.
What do you do?
April's going to be here before you know it, and Will Chamberlain is not walking through that door.
Nope, absolutely not. Absolutely
what do you do if you're Coach Kerr, where it's like Thompson's been out for so long, and now he's back, but he's not performing. I mean, how easy is it for him to go, Klay, we just got to kind of sit you for, I mean, how do you do that?
Well, you can't lose chemistry, right? You can't lose chemistry in that locker room. And Klay is like the main guy everybody loves, right? He's the lovable teddy bear, and you just want to make sure that he gets his dues and his respect, right? He should be respected as one of the best shooters in the game. Right now, he's not. It's just how it is. And you can tell Steve Kerr is really searching with rotations, and he's experimenting every night. And if you follow anybody on NBA Twitter here in the Bay Area, everyone's always blaming Kerr for these losses and these rotations and things like that. But at the end of the day, it comes back to the players. They got to perform. They really do. It's not always on Steve Kerr and the rotations and this and that and minutes. Guys got to play well, and they just haven't been playing well. The energy hasn't been there. I mean,
as the kids say, facts.
Facts. It really is facts.
But, so you guys want to make it? I know it's really early, but you want to make any kind of predictions? I mean, do you think this is Phoenix's year?
Too early to tell for me. Sure. Too early to tell for me. I mean, let's get to these playoffs. Let's get to the tournament, because that's when everything really gets kind of ramped up. This whole regular season stuff, they're just jockeying for position.
Yeah.
But once the playoffs hit, it's you're not going to go as deep as you usually do in the bench. You play the packages that you trust, and you get out there. And these are 7-game series. I mean, you got to win. You got to win 4 out of 7. This is just not a little home and home. I mean, it's different. It's just completely different. What say you, FB?
No, I agree. It's a completely different game in the playoffs. It really is. And then you're going to see the veteran experience of Steph Curry and even Klay Thompson. They're going to just play the game a click slower. and a click more confident. And you're going to see that, including Draymond too, when he's healthy. That's going to be a huge difference. So you're going to see that veteran presence of like, oh, I've been here before. I feed off this energy. I know to harness that energy, while other teams and other players are going to be playing a little too fast, making more mistakes. And that's where the Warriors are really going to come in. So it's really hard to tell, but it's kind of interesting when you think about it. It's like a different game, right? And I've been kind of going back and forth about this. I don't know if you guys saw MLB's big proposal is having 14 teams in the playoffs.
Mhm.
When you have that many teams, it's almost like, it turns into a different game, and it kind of lessens the value of the regular season. And even Steph Curry has talked about, like, hey, we just want to get in, right? We just want to get into this dance. We don't want to play any playing games, right? But we just want to get in the dance, and then we just want to show everybody what we got. So it's kind of interesting. You kind of see how the NBA deals with that situation, and it really takes away from the regular season games.
Yeah.
And it's more about experimenting and finding what works until you get into that dance. So think about that when other leagues are starting to propose more playoff teams. You can't really do that in the NFL because, it's week to week, game to game, and there's so little games. But in baseball, I think you would actually see something like that where it really would lessen the 162 game season.
I mean, can you imagine in the old days when in baseball where it was just, the top AL, the top NL, that was it,
Yeah.
That's a little bit too scary. You gotta have some kind of playoffs.
Yeah.
Speaking of dance, the day after this show airs, it's Selection Sunday for the NCAA tournament, both men's and women's.
Oh, yes. March Madness is coming in hot.
That's right.
Any predictions on that, or is that too early too?
I can call up maybe the top seeds. I want to say, Arizona, Gonzaga, Baylor, maybe Kentucky. But well, I was going to mention Duke, but then they lost to North Carolina on Coach K's final game at home. But hey, it's 68 teams, including the play-in games. Let's go, And can Stanford on the women's side run the table in their own right? Because they're the number one team in the nation. They've won 34 consecutive Pac-12 games, including the last 20 in a row. So, and they're back to defend the Natty. In fact, I'm going to be interviewing the Hull sisters the day after. Well, the day after we record this show.
Cool.
So,
very cool.
I'll tell you how much of a crapshoot it is. March Madness is the tournament. When I was doing KMBR and I was a producer for their night show, we'd actually have darts madness, and we'd have a dartboard, and we'd throw the dart at the dartboard. And if it landed on red, the higher seed would go. If it landed on black, it'd be the lower seed. And then we put in that bracket, and we put it in, the pool where we were all betting and stuff, and in KMBR, the radio station, and we actually did pretty good.
There you go.
Pretty good, until we started to lose the 1 seeds early on, and then we started to go awry, but. That should tell you how crazy
it's even fun for the office pools because we've got, we got anchors in the newsroom that would rather, talk about other things. And then they just, oh, that's a nice name, nice nickname. I'm going to put them in. And then they run the table.
All right. Hey, we're going to cut to our second trivia question here. What was the only year that the Seattle Pilots existed? All right.
Okay. All right.
What was the only year the Seattle Pilots existed? Stay with us. Sports Econ 101. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. One more time. I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Vern Glenn and FP Santangelo Jr. And our second trivia question. What was the only year that the Seattle Pilots existed?
1968?
No! You're so close.
9?
Yeah.
69 then.
1969. Yeah. It's so funny because I actually remember, well, I was a kid, but I remember that. Didn't they become the San Diego Padres?
Probably. I don't know.
I can't confirm.
Yeah, I think so. In fact, and then didn't Ball 4, wasn't that the Jim Bouton had written it based on that team?
Oh, it says here that on April 1st, 1970, they moved to Milwaukee to be the Brewers.
Oh.
Well, now, okay.
So then wait a minute, who became the Padres?
I'm not sure. Maybe they're just expansion team.
I thought the Padres were an expansion team.
Oh, you're right. You know what? You're right. Okay, fair enough. Well, speaking of baseball, what's the latest?
So today, as we're discussing this on Tuesday, March 8th, right? They gave an ultimatum. Again, another ultimatum. Major League Baseball gave an ultimatum to the players union saying, listen, if we don't make a deal by tonight, we're going to cancel even more games. But if we do make a deal by tonight, we'll give you your full pay. We'll give you a 162 game season. We'll make sure you guys are taken care of. But let's agree to my demands. So I got a question for you guys here.
Okay.
How many times has an ultimatum worked in a relationship of yours?
You know, it really
It's never
depends.
worked for me. It's never worked for me.
It's never worked for me.
It depends. I think it depends on the circumstances. You know, if you're coming from a place of strength or weakness. If you're coming from weakness, ultimatums don't work. But if you're coming from strength, where you hold like pretty much all the cards, and you're trying to just make, you know, like I've done that in business. You know, sometimes I'm trying to work a deal, and it cuts to a point where you hit a roadblock, and you just say, okay, listen, this is really my final offer. I mean, it's a final offer when you say an ultimatum, right? It's my final offer, and I'm willing to walk away. And then you do. I mean, and then sometimes the other person will say, okay, well, I realize I really do have to give in, or they'll just have their own, reasons, pride, whatever, and that's it. It goes away.
Professionally, it went against me. I had no choice. I had to take this deal or else, or the worst of it. And when you look back, you go, okay, I'm a father of three, got a wife, got all this, all right. So I ended up having to take that deal. I mean, this was a handful of years ago. Fast forward to now, we're okay. But it was a trying time professionally. Me.
Especially like with your employer, that's always kind of tough.
In an unstable business, not as unstable as radio, but still pretty unstable at times.
Professionally, it's obviously you get those ultimatums, right? And you got to be at the place of power, right? But Major League Baseball, and if you look at this, they've already given 2 ultimatums, right? And then the players union has seen right through that. They're like, listen, we are so strong in our resolve that we're willing to sacrifice a season to make sure that future generations are propped up properly. We don't care about the money that we have. Some other guys maybe break that line though. Maybe they'll go like, hey, guys, like I need to get paid. Like we need to play baseball.
Right.
So it's a weird position of power here. It looks like unity is the main thing though, right? And what we're hearing through rumors and sources is that the baseball union is stronger than ever. They want to make sure they're getting paid correctly. They don't want to get screwed over. They want to get paid their worth. They know what the revenue is. But it seems like ownership groups, there's 8 owners. This is what the number that's come out. 8 owners that are really staunch in holding their ground. They don't want to give in to the players. They really want to squeeze out every penny and dime. So 8 owners out of 30 are making it a hard time. This is what's being reported. These are rumors. And if you look at how teams operate and how cheap certain teams are, hey, maybe that's all it takes is 8 guys to really ruin it for everybody, or groups, I should say, rather. And I hope that's not the case, but it seems to me that this ultimatum is not going to work tonight, and we're going to see more canceled games.
And then that's the whole different thing between sports and antitrust type elsewhere, where if let's say I'm a really good salesman for a company and I can put my demands in and we can negotiate and all this, and then but if they say we're not going to meet your demands, I can say fine, I'll take my talents elsewhere and go to another company. You can't just do that in baseball. You can't just say I'm playing for the Giants. Nope, I think I'll play for the Cubs. And that's where it gets really, challenging. In fact, if I remember correctly, the reason they came down with the rules back in the early 1900s, so to speak, was it just was too weird having people jump from the Federal League to the National League, the American League. I mean, just guys were bouncing all over the place. There was no continual team.
Yeah. It's funny that you mentioned that. Major League Baseball is actually the only exempt organization in business that's not part of the Antitrust Act. They're actually a monopoly. They can function as a monopoly legally. They can do whatever they want. That's why they come down hard on independent leagues. They come down on any other league within their realm. If they feel threatened, they can crush it.
So what is it? Why do you think it doesn't happen? You know, when NBA is big, NFL is really big.
Well, they went to a Supreme Court hearing, I think in 1908 or something, 1918, something early 191800s, and it went to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court gave them an exemption because it was a split decision in the last, as it's explained in the Ken Burns documentary, it went right down to the last judge, and he was a Chicago Cubs fan, and he wanted to see the Cubs win. And
how about that?
Yeah.
Saying that.
And who says the Supreme Court is supposed to be these independent people, you know?
Exactly. So it's unfortunately it's had all these ramifications all these years later, and that's why Major League Baseball, like the players union, is the weakest out of all the leagues. The players have the least amount of power because of that one ruling, and it's pretty crazy. But we're seeing actually some athletes, including Bryce Harper, who went on Instagram and said, "Hey, I'll play for the Tokyo Giants. Let's start talking here. Let's see if guys will start going to other leagues." And I think that would be a viable move, even though they're going to get paid a lot less than what they're worth. I mean, you're not going to get $400 million contract in Tokyo for Mike Trout, right? You're not going to get one of those. But if you want to play baseball, you want to expand the brand, and you truly love the game, go overseas. Let's see what happens. Let's really expand the game.
Wow,
that's a good point. I don't know what the high salaries are in Japan or Korea or some of the other.
I think they're like 20 million, like 4 years, 20 million, which in comparison to Major League Baseball is.
Yeah, but I mean, baseball is really big in Japan.
Oh, and South Korea too.
South Korea,
yeah, they got big leagues. I mean, even in Venezuela, the Dominican Republic, like you could go to overseas and really make an impact in other places if you wanted to.
And that's the thing is, it's not just the money. How do you, of course, someone like Bryce Harper, I mean, he would be a god, so to speak, in Japan. And so I'm sure he'd have a great life there. And then Japan's a great, I've never been there, but it just seems like an awesome place to live. But
well, if you get enough base of the big league guys together saying, "Hey, we're all going to go to Japan," then Major League Baseball, they don't like to look bad. So maybe, I don't know, maybe there's something there. I doubt it will come to that, though.
Yeah. Hopefully it doesn't. But a part of me kind of wishes it does, because that'd be kind of cool to see like a worldwide sport, like see how worldwide baseball really can become. So that's the way to really, really accelerate the growth overseas.
Listen, when I was a kid, I still remember Sadahara. I mean, he had 830 home runs or something. I don't know how far the fences were, but still, the guy was a beast. He was the Babe Ruth of Japan
Japanese leagues.
Yeah. So what are the sticking points specifically that are keeping the two sides apart?
Well, it always comes down to money. They don't want to increase the minimum pay, and we're talking about $30,000 to $50,000 more in some cases. It's really, really cheap.
They're really big on wanting to protect the players with 0 to 3 years experience, right?
Yeah, so they're trying.
I appreciate that. It's not just, let's say, Bryce Harper who makes it, or Mike Trout who makes so many millions, kind of going, no, I need.
But across the board, everybody in the big leagues, and FP, you can back me up on this one. I mean, there's only a certain amount of your Bryce Harper type guys that are making like the big money. Exactly. You have them, and then you got the rest of the guys.
1%, the top 1% of baseball players make 99% of the money in the league. Which
there you go.
Crazy to think about. So you always hear about Max Scherzer, like, why is Max Scherzer leading this? Like, he's making all this money. He shouldn't be.
He's losing $120,000 a game and all that kind of,
Yeah, listen, he's the most respected guy in any clubhouse he walks into. He knows how to negotiate. He's actually worked in politics in DC. He's got a lot of things he's passionate about. He's been on Capitol Hill. He's the guy you want, right? He's making all this money. It's because one day early in his career, he wasn't making a lot of money, right? And he didn't get his big contract until like year 7, year 8. And he was seeing how nice everything is around him, right? He's seeing like the private jets. He's seeing like the owners do this. He's seeing like the brand new batting cages being put in. And he goes, wait a minute, I'm the reason for this. Why isn't this money going in my pocket? Why is this $1 billion stadium somehow not getting into my pocket. I helped build this stadium. What's going on here? And a lot of guys think like that, and it's true. I mean, the craziest thing to me is that the records of revenue that every single team makes doesn't need to be public. It's all private. So you can just get away with the shadiest of shady deals and really, really undercut your players, which obviously makes a really hostile work environment and a toxic environment.
Do they have is it a revenue share situation at all?
Not in baseball.
No, not in baseball. So everything.
Because I could see where there could be some real shady stuff if you suddenly, like, sure, we'll do a share of revenue, but then if they're not showing you the books,
Now they do in the NFL with the TV contract. Everybody gets the same share of that. But in baseball, it's the wild, wild west. Yankees make what they want, and Tampa Bay Rays make what they want. And you can see the difference in the
and then
the whole salary payroll.
That's a whole different, I mean, that kind of it's a whole different animal, but it kind of plays into this, right? I mean,
absolutely. And they haven't really talked about a salary floor, which I wish they would have talked about, so that way teams can start competing and actually paying the money that they have, but acting like they don't have. Like, the biggest fallacy in any sport is that there's a small market team. Well, maybe like their ratings aren't as good, right? But the owners have the money to pay for it. And if you want to go get a Ja Morant, or you want to like invest money into your scouting agency or something like that, it's there, right? It's just a matter of effort and you willing to spend and investing into your product, right? Or
when you're the Miami Marlins and your payroll is $58 million and the Yankees are well over $200 million, you can't win. You can't.
Yeah, and you're not trying to win, right? You're just trying to get in the black. You're just trying to make a quick profit, and that's what a lot of these clubs have turned into. You don't have really people that are baseball families anymore, right? These are just business people that own teams.
That's true. Guys, going to get to our last commercial break. We're talking old baseball here. This is old. The Cleveland franchise began with what team name? We all know that they're the Cleveland Indians, which eventually.
I think I know that. I think I know the answer to this.
You know
I think I do.
Wow.
I think I do.
I will be impressed.
I think I do.
Think you know this one? Okay. All right. Stay with us. Sports Econ 101. We'll be right back with some closing comments. Don't touch that dial. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Last time for today, I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Vern Glenn and FP Santangelo Jr. Third trivia question. The Cleveland franchise, baseball we're talking, began with what team name?
I believe it was the Cleveland Spiders.
No.
Oh, man.
Yes, I would have thought that too. With Cy Young, with the Cleveland Spiders. No, actually, they were called the Cleveland Blues in 1901. In 1902, they became the Broncos for 1 year. And then from 1903 to 1914, they were called the Cleveland Naps. But you know what? I know they were called the Cleveland Spiders. So
yeah, I'm seeing that they were professionally the Cleveland Spiders in 1890. So it precedes that professionally. Maybe if you're talking about maybe American League Baseball or National League Baseball. But
oh, you know what? We're still going to give you credit then, Mr. Vern Glenn, because I also knew it was the Cleveland Spiders with Cy Young.
And getting back to the Red Sox, this is my information. Red Sox won the World Series in 03, 12, 15, 16, 18. That's 5.
Oh, so that would have been, and Connie Max was 05, 10, 11, 12, and 14. So, yeah, you're just right on the cusp there. All right. Are you guys ready for our thoughts for the day?
Go.
Okay. Wise men speak because they have something to say. Fools because they have to say something.
Fools speak.
Wise men speak because they have something to say.
Wise men speak because they have
to say something.
Okay. All right. Okay.
And who said that? Plato. And if
Plato.
you remember, there was Socrates taught Plato. Plato taught Aristotle. Okay.
So the wise men bring something to the table.
That's right. There you go. That's in a nutshell.
The fool is just like he just blurts out whatever.
Just blurts it out, exactly. And why aren't there any casinos in Africa?
Why is that?
Why aren't there any casinos in Africa? Too many cheetahs. All right. Tune in next week, too.
That's pretty good.
All right, tune in next week to Sports Econ 101. We'll be discussing sports topics from a business perspective and asking more sports trivia questions. Thanks for listening. On behalf of our team, I'm your host, Edward Brown. We'll see you next week.
Good night, America.
Oh.